Today, on Uncut with Lucia, we have Christine Handy. So, Christine, you are very welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Christine, you are a cancer survivor among many things, and have published a novel called Walk Beside Me. Can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Of course. So Walk Beside Me is a fictional depiction of my life. Yeah, I started modeling when I was a very young girl and was really wrapped up into my identity as the external, what I look like primarily, not only in business because I was a model, but also I felt like that was my value in the world. And so I started to have some health illnesses about 35 years old. And those health illnesses really scared me because I wasn't sure who I was inside. I never really took the time to develop who that person was inside and get to know that person. And so it was a really frightening time for me, especially when I was diagnosed with cancer. And, I was kind of forced to figure out who I was because that external was taken away, right? I lost my hair. I was 90 pounds. I was very ill from chemotherapy and I had multiple surgeries, which left me with a concave chest. And so I decided that my transformation from being, live in a very transactional world and very focused on the external and the material things in life to serving and wanting to give back and wanting to show up for other people. But it was the journey, right? It was the pain and the suffering that pushed me, right, to get to know myself. And so I decided that it was an important story to tell because maybe it could help other people do that same shift and to show them how to do it. And so it's not a self-help book. It's a fictional story. And it's been a bestseller for 5 years. So yeah, it's called Walk Beside Me. And it's basically my life. Yeah.
That's amazing. So it's a fiction, but it's based on your life. And
Yes.
how long did it take you to write this book?
It was like a baby. It took 9 months.
9 months. Wow, it took a lot.
It took a long time. Oh my gosh. Well, the process is long of writing a book. The process of writing the book and publishing the book is long, but worth the journey. I mean, how many times have you heard people say, I want to write a book. I want to write a book. Most people, right?
Exactly.
But the people that do it, right?
Mm-hmm. And was writing this book therapeutic for you, and everything and you've gone through?
It's given me a platform. So, the first 35 years of my life were all focused on modeling. And so the second portion, which is what I'm living now, my book has given me a platform to be able to speak and help other women. And so my book's been a catalyst for me being able to serve. And so I really loved that. And so I became a motivational speaker after my book came out. And so it's been a journey. But I love the career shift.
You have to come to Spain to give speeches here as well.
I would love to. Yeah. So I worked in Spain. Actually, I worked in Barcelona as a model, and I lived in the elite modeling agency when I was 23 years old.
I know. Yeah. And Christine, what was the most challenging part of your writing process?
I think the most challenging part was the start of writing the book because I had so much information and there were so many things that happened in my life that I couldn't figure out where to start it and what parts of it were, relevant and what parts should I not, put in there. And so I think the start and the organization of the story was difficult. But I think that, once I got started, it flowed really well. And then after I wrote the book, it was a little bit confusing as to how to publish it, but then that worked out pretty easily. I actually self-published it because I didn't want anybody to change the book. And then once it was self-published, it became a bestseller. And so a publisher called me and said, we would like to republish your book. And so basically my book is with a publisher now, but I started off publishing it myself. So I know how to do both.
Being an indie author, sometimes
It's hard.
Yeah, it's very hard. My first book was published by a publisher, and the trilogy I published myself. So I learned everything was hard, but I didn't give up. And it's a long process. And the main character of your book, it's called Willow.
Willow. Yes, that's a nickname of mine. So
it's your nickname.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's beautiful. It's the tree, willow.
Well, it's ironically the tree, right? Because ironically the tree never breaks, which is kind of my story. I never break, but I get really pushed, and so that's kind of my story. Yeah, ironically enough.
And this nickname you had before having the wow.
Yeah. Yes. So there's a movie being made about my book.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie's title is called Willow, the feature film. Yeah.
And when it's going to be released?
Well, we're not sure because it was supposed to start filming right when COVID started. So everything's been pushed back. So we will see. It's been difficult because of the COVID, right? Mm-hmm. Everything does.
Can you tell me 3 words to describe Willow?
The character?
Yes, the character.
Brave, clever, and loving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I could keep going. There's so much depth to this character and so much life. Yeah, it's incredible.
And Christine, for people who don't know about your story, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I think I shared about the modeling, and once I was, I really wanted to model, and so from a very young age, I just really, that was my passion. That's what I wanted to do, and I kind of convinced my parents to allow me to do it. And I kind of thought that was my place in life, and that I would continue to do it till long in life. When I was modeling at 15, I was working with models that were in their 60s. So I thought my longevity in the industry would go on forever. And so, when I was struck with these illnesses, I was really kind of not only lost inside myself because I didn't know who I was. I had lived in this transactional world for so long, but I was also lost. My career was lost. And so the story is really about, how do you get through, going from identifying yourself as something so strongly like I did to completely having that stripped away, not by choice. And then how do you recover from that? And not only how you recover, but how do you thrive, right? So I wouldn't say I've recovered. I've written a best-selling book. My book's becoming a film. I go to Harvard University. I do a lot of interviews. There's so many things that I've done since, I've had cancer. So, and I like to show that to people so that they know there's so much life after cancer. There's so many things you can do. I feel like my real career started at 45 years old, which is when I wrote the book and I became a speaker. And I think that, my life really kind of started then. So there's always time and you should never give up. Right. But that's a choice that we make every single day.
Yeah, it's like beautiful what you said, and giving speeches, you will be able to help many people. There are so many women who need to be helped. I check like groups of women who had breast cancer, and I was reading about them, and some of them were really negative about the circumstance and outcome. Sure. It's difficult to be positive all the time. Yeah.
Very.
And what would you tell someone who just found out that has a breast cancer or another kind of cancer?
Well, I would attribute a lot to my success in overcoming my illnesses, because I didn't just have one, with faith and my faith in God. And I don't know how people get through trauma after trauma without faith. I have never been able to do that without my faith in God. And so I wouldn't even know where to start with that. I think that you also need a very high self-esteem, because you need to want to fight for yourself. You need to want to self-love. And the only way to ask for help, because you're going to need help during the fight for cancer, is by having enough self-confidence to ask for help. Because I feel like oftentimes when we need help, some of us are very prideful about, oh, I don't, I'm independent, I'm strong, I'm not going to ask for help. And that can really work against you when you're fighting cancer. You're going to need all the help you can get. And I think if you have a friend or family member that's diagnosed with cancer, I think the best thing that you can do for them is just little bits of showing up all the time. So it doesn't have to be like a, huge gesture. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but it can be showing up for them by texting and checking in on them and just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. It could be a handwritten note, and, sending them, encouraging podcasts to listen to. But it's the showing up that really propels people to keep going, especially during, trauma after trauma. So that would be what I would advise.
I agree with you 100%. Without God, I wouldn't survive one situation like this.
Yeah. Every day for me. Every day I'm dependent on. Yeah.
Exactly. I feel the same. And Christine, you told me you were studying Harvard. Congratulations. Yes. It's not easy to enroll at
no,
Harvard.
It's not. It's not easy to enroll, and it's not easy to stay in, but it takes a lot of work, like everything in life. It's persistence, it's grit and grace. It's a challenge, but I don't mind the challenge as long as I'm showing up for me. I'm okay with the challenge. But I think most people, a lot of people are dependent on other people to kind of push them. I push myself. I'm able to take on the challenge.
You're studying creative writing.
Yeah, creative writing and literature.
And what has been the greatest thing about studying this program?
Well, I have a book out, and I have another book that's going to come out. And so one of the things that I'm doing right now is changing that second book, because I'm studying at Harvard and I'm learning so much, and I'm really honing in on my writing skills and getting better at them. And so I'm able to go back and rewrite that second book before I publish it. And I'm just learning so much about different types of writing, journalistic writing and poetry and screenplay writing, and all the mediums of writing that I've never attempted to do. So there's been so many blessings about it.
Yeah, it must be very rewarding. Yeah,
it is very rewarding. Yeah, most things in life that are hard work are very rewarding.
And Christine, your book is a tremendous success. Yes. And I read that Michael Levin described your book as a heartfelt story that makes you believe in miracles. Yeah. So my question for you is, do you believe in miracles, Christine?
Oh, I see them. I'm witness to them. I am a miracle. And I've seen many, many, many miracles in my life. So yes, I think my story is really kind of miraculous. Most people that read my book can't imagine that I'm still walking this earth. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think just being alive, and it's a miracle. And when I see a kid, wow, how can this baby be here? It's not a coincidence. Yeah,
right.
Not from out of the blue. And
exactly.
And Christine, even though your novel is a fictional account of what you went through, how do you deal with negative criticism? I don't know if you had negative criticism.
Oh, everybody does. Absolutely. And really, the bigger the profile, the bigger the negativity, because you have trolls. And so, I think there are people that come into your life, obviously not people that are close to me, but that don't want to see you succeed. I think that's true of everybody, right? And those types of people, that's about them, not about you. And so I realize that if somebody posts something negative under my Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media and says something negative, it's coming from their heart and has nothing to do with me. And so it's not that it's that simple. It's not that some things that people have said haven't hurt me, because they have. I'll give you a very good example. Last summer, when we were all worried about COVID, I was facing an infection in my chest. And so my main focus in my life was trying to get over this infection. Ultimately, I was hospitalized 3 times. And in the end, my breast cavities were excavated. And so the beautiful implants that I had after I had breast cancer were taken out forever. So I never really had to, I had mastectomies back when I had breast cancer, but I never really had to face having a really flat or concave chest because I had implants put in. And so last summer I posted, after I went through this horrible surgery, I posted this picture of me flat. Mm-hmm. And this man posted under my Instagram, he said, "Were you born a man or a woman?" And he said something else, like it was more than that. And it really upset me because I thought to myself, because I thought I looked great. I mean, I was like, oh, I don't really like to be flat or concave, but I'm still beautiful, right? And so when he said that, I thought to myself, am I like lying to myself? Is this like so unattractive, or so, do I look like a boy? And it took me like 3 days before I thought, that has nothing to do with you. It shouldn't shake you at all. From everything that I've gone through, that should not shake me at all. And that was it. It was over. I actually responded to the guy and just said, "Why would you ask that?" And he responded to me and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that." But if you stand up to the bullies, and don't criticize them back, there's no reason to put that back in there. But if you just stand up politely and say, "Okay, well, what's the point?" Right? And then they back off, right? And so I don't mind haters. I don't mind people to criticize me, because I know where I stand in my own self-worth and also in my faith. So I don't really get rattled very much. When we build our self-esteem on sand, like I did prior to cancer, where material things were my idols and my beauty was an idol and my job was an idol, my self-esteem was really shaky. But once I built my life on faith, right? And who I was inside, nothing really rattles me very much. I'm not really afraid of much, because it's built on faith. It's built on concrete. And when you build your life on concrete and not what the society wants or not what society thinks that you should be, you're unshakable and unstoppable, by the way. So I don't really mind haters. They can say what they want.
The problem nowadays is that sometimes teenagers or even adults who are not prepared for some kind of comments or bullying, yeah, of course, some people just suffer a lot. And that's why we see so many people having depression, anxiety,
suicide. I'm not saying that it came easily for me, and I'm not dismissing the fact that bullies hurt. I also have a fused arm. And the reason I have a fused arm is because I had a doctor who bullied me so badly. And I was afraid to tell anybody what he was doing to me. And ultimately that cost me my wrist. And so I'm not immune to bullies. And I want to make sure that's very clear. But what I've learned from those experiences has been that it has hurt my life, right? Bullies have hurt my life. But the more I poured into my faith, the more I grounded my life on not the external world, what was inside, which was always in there, but I didn't know it. Once I really stood in my footing, in my faith, I wasn't putting up with bullies, but it was my self-esteem. It was my insecurity that I was allowing people to bully me. And so I'm not saying that it's easy to stand up to people. I'm not saying that it's easy to, accept haters. It's not. It's a lot of self-examination. It's a lot of self-love, and it's a lot of work on your self-esteem, which, by the way, I work on every single day. I really measure the thoughts in my head and what I'm saying to myself. I really pay attention to the people around me and what are they pouring into me. If I have people that are taking from my life or making comments about me that are gossiping, right? then I eliminate them out of my life, because I know that my self-esteem is fragile. And so I protect myself that way. And I also pour into, faith-based music and faith-based podcasts. And I pour those types of things into my soul to feed my soul. I don't turn on the news. I don't turn on things that, frighten me or take me away from my peace. And so I think if people do those types of measures on a day-to-day basis, your life becomes more solidly placed on concrete versus sand.
Do you talk about this on your speech?
Yeah. No, I mean, this is one of my topics, is self-esteem. Because I went from having I had no self-esteem. And it's funny because my lowest self-esteem was when I was a model, when I was really at the height of my career and modeling for guests and all these huge campaigns. When I was doing that, my self-esteem was terrible. And, we look at models and we think, oh, they're so pretty. They're so glamorous. They live in this world of, what society praises, right? But inside, a lot of models I worked with, including myself, had very low self-esteem. It wasn't until I was really faced with losing that career and losing what I thought was important in my life, which turns out it wasn't. That's when I was able to work on my self-esteem and work on what was inside, which just was dying to come out. And so for me, the illness forced me into figuring out who I was. And I liked figuring out who I was. And when I was able to figure it out, I said, you know what, with this knowledge, I can help other people. And that's what I did.
Mm-hmm. And this is your mission, yeah, Christine?
And this is my mission. Yeah. I'm doing a good job.
Yeah, you are.
Self-affirmations. We have to praise ourselves. Society won't always praise us, but we have to take the initiative and do it for ourselves. I don't rely on other people praising me. I knew who I am.
I really admire you.
Thank you.
On the back of your book has the Habit for Humanity logo. Are you working for this organization?
I don't work for them. Part of my proceeds of my book goes towards that organization. It's called Habits of Humanity. Mm-hmm. And I'm also on the board of two other organizations. One is called eBeauty, mm-hmm. which is a wig exchange program for women going through cancer treatment who can't afford a wig. So it's a free wig exchange program. And I'm also on the board. I'm the president of a board called People of Purpose, which is where I live. It's we work in the prison system to help prisoners who are coming out, to educate them. So they have tools, right? Because when you come out of prison, you have a little bag of your belongings, and you have fines, and so we're helping educate them to a craft, so they can depend on working and change their life. So I'm involved in several organizations and charities, which I just love. And that's the other thing. When you serve, it fills you up. It fills your soul.
Where are you giving your speeches? I believe that you are doing it online. Yeah. For now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll have a bigger platform soon, I hope, when the world kind of opens up. I work for 5 different speaking agents around the country. All American Speakers is the main agency I work for, but people can find me on my website. It's christinehandy.com, or Instagram or Facebook. It's all Christine Handy. Pinterest. Mm-hmm. I'm out there. So if you just remember Christine Handy, you can find me.
And your book, is it on Amazon?
Yes. Yeah. That's the easiest place to buy it, but it's in Barnes and Noble, Indie Books. It's really where most retailers sell books. It's there. It's called Walk Beside Me.
Beautiful. And Christine, do you want to tell us a little bit more about your book, any teaser or something like this?
I think, I'm a very emotional writer. And so most people have said when they read my book, they feel like they're going through it with me. And I think that's really a talent, because it's not always easy to make people feel with written word. And so I don't know. I'm very lucky that I have that talent.
Very good. And Christine, thank you very much for your time with me.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Really I feel like I'm blessed to have.
Thank you. Thank you.
And come back.
I definitely will. We'll talk about the second book when I publish it.
Okay, and the film as well.
And the film, for sure.
Okay, thank you.